Hi guys, in today's video I want to talk about something a little bit different, and that is do you ever need to go back to the US after moving overseas? Now this is more in particular for people who live in the US because I can't speak for other countries like New Zealand, Australia, the UK. They have their own set of rules and different things that I'm not really well versed on. So I'm going to stick with the USA on this one because a lot of people think that once you leave you're done. No more flights back home, no more dealing with the system. But the reality is it's not always that simple. I have friends. I have one friend that I know for sure has never been back, but now he has an expired US license. He doesn't have any. He has a hard time getting anything that's tied to the US. Like if he wants to open a bank or anything like that, I mean, he's got his passport, but as far as a secondary ID, he's long since doesn't have that. I don't think he can even get a credit card anymore. I'm not sure his exact situation, but he's pretty much cut himself off from the US. So I don't know if that's such a great idea. Then I have other friends who haven't been back in 5 years, but they do go back occasionally, so they can kind of take care of some business when they do go back. And then there's people like me who travel back annually, and then you got others who maybe split their time between the US and here or in other countries. But after living overseas for 10 plus years now, I still can't believe I've been gone living overseas for 10 years now. And after talking to lots of expats, each one with a different story, each one with a different type of setup, I can tell you this: some people never do go back, and others, they fly back way more than expected. I know some guys who do like 4 or 5 trips a year. Whew, it's such a long journey, and it really is exhausting. Let me tell you, I think anybody who's flown that long, direct or even layovers, that's a long journey. For me, I have found that I really don't like the direct flights. Some people do. What I like to do is kind of break it up a little bit and kind of have a stopover and then kind of freshen up, go grab a coffee or lunch at the airport, stretch my legs, and then get back on a plane and do another leg. It works better for me. I know it lengthens the amount of time you gotta you're in the air and the length of time that it takes to get back home. But for me, it works better that way. So in this video, I'm just going to break down when you actually need to go back and when you actually don't, and how to set up your life so you can avoid it completely. Stick around for today's video.
I'm tired of waiting here. Same 4 walls, same fading year. Got these plans stuck in my head. Southeast Asia calling me instead. Bangkok nights in Bali shores. Sick of dreaming, want something more.
All right, let's start off with the short answer. No, you do not need to return to the US if you're living overseas. There's no rule that says you have to go back every year or anything like that. But there's certain situations where going back becomes necessary, or at least a lot easier. For example, when my driver's license expired and I needed an actual US phone number, and I do an annual trip anyway, but I had to go back and renew my driver's license. And I went into the T-Mobile store and got my cell phone. Once I've done that, then really there's not a whole lot else that you really need to go back home for. But one situation might be banking and money. And that's probably the number one reason that people have to go back. If your entire financial setup is still based in the US, bank accounts, credit cards, investments, and most of us, that's the case. It is for me anyway. Then eventually you might run into some issues that require you going back. You might have your account flagged, transaction frozen, ask for in-person verification. Now, this is where we have something like Wise, or solid international setup, which is huge. If you set things up right, you can set up everything online and really never have to go back. But again, most of us go back probably because family, right? But there's some of us that that's not the case. And again, I plug Wise because Wise is like a great middleman, which you can just kind of transfer funds back and forth into Wise and then maybe into even a local bank, or just use the debit or the digital card for your Wise, and you don't really even have to use your bank back home. Everything can kind of be done through Wise. Number two, I guess, would be legal stuff. There's going to be situations that pop up where people have to take care of legal stuff. For example, a divorce. Again, things like divorce recognition, power of attorney, property issues, court appearances. Some of it can be handled remotely, but not always. And if you don't plan ahead, you might be booking a last-minute flight back to the US. Now, the third thing would be taxes. Now, I happen to do all my taxes online through TurboTax, never had any issue whatsoever, but some people have much more complex situations like owning property or a business and things like that, rental properties. The good news is you do not need to return to the US to file taxes. There's even expat tax services that can help you out, and everything can be done online. But there's a catch. If you mess something up or you're audited, it might require a lot more involvement depending on your situation. That's why getting it right in the beginning is probably very, very important. And then another big one is family emergencies. And this is probably the number one reason why expats go back. Now, when my father passed away in 2017, it was almost like a year after I had arrived in the Philippines. That was a major emergency. My mom is elderly and she's still in good health, but if one of my sons got sick or one of my sons got married or something like that, well, there's a reason there to have to travel back home as well. But again, you have illnesses that can happen, emergencies, major life events. Like I said, if one of my sons were to get married or have a child, then that would be a major reason. And then, of course, that's not really about paperwork or rules. That's just life. And it is something you need to mentally plan for if you plan on living overseas long term, that you got to have some money set up in case that happens. You may get a call out of the blue, hey, mom passed away, or a sister passed away, or a big emergency where someone got, a severe illness or an accident, and, you probably need to get back home. So let's talk about how you can set yourself up so you don't have to go back home. And here's what I recommend. Set up online banking plus international access. Accounts like Wise, bank accounts that deal with living overseas. There's a few of them. Mine do, USAA and Navy Federal Credit Union. I know everybody doesn't have access to those, but if you're ex-military in the US, then those are two big ones that you really should set yourself up with. Use services that work globally. T-Mobile's been tested for me. I just use it over Wi-Fi calling and just keep it on a secondary phone. And I got my traveling mailbox. And handle all your legal stuff before you leave. Also, a lot of things people don't realize is before you leave, make sure anything that has an expiration date and that you need, like a driver's license, things like that, see if you can get that taken care of before you go. And some states will allow you to do online renewals with driver's licenses. Mine didn't at the time. Digitalize everything. Documents, IDs, backups, and have a mailing address solution. Again, the one I recommend is Traveling Mailbox. There are links for everything I'm talking about down in the description in the pinned comment. And if you do this right, you can live for years overseas without stepping foot back in the US again. And for me personally, I've gone long stretches at the beginning without needing to go back. But now things are a bit different, and now it's an annual, sometimes biannual trip back to the US. Not to take care of things, but strictly just for family. But when I do go back, I always seem to take care of some things that just are easier to be handled while in the States. And sure, a lot of things you can just handle online overseas, but a lot of things, it's just easier to handle when you're there. But again, I've seen situations where people just have no choice, and it costs them time, stress, and money. So the goal isn't just to leave, it's to set up your life properly before you leave. So guys, if you're thinking about moving overseas or already have, drop a comment down below, let me know your situation. And if you want help setting everything up the right way, from banking, where to live, check out my consultation info at gioonthego.net, and you can sign up for a consultation. And guys, I will see you in the next video. And if you have ideas for future videos, please drop a comment down below and let me know what you would like to see. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.
Southeast Asia calling me instead. Bangkok nights and Bali shores. Sick of dreaming, want something more. Pack your bags, don't hesitate. Gio, let's go before it's too late. Time keeps slipping away